he just went nuts. And he had a lethal weapon in his possession. That's the whole point. There's so many mental health issues going around that go untreated, undiagnosed, unrecognized, and people are ashamed to even think that they may have an issue, even if it's fleeting, even if it's just, again, in the moment, your inability to cope with a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable. It could just be those types of things. But you're giving everyone the ability to kill people.
Welcome to another episode of Retraction. I'm your co-host, Antoine.
And I'm your co-host, Jamie. If you like reversing course through discourse with us, please like and subscribe.
Share,
comment. You can always do, a few other things. If you have your own podcast, feel free to mention us. If you're on TV, feel free to wear a shirt or a hat with our logo. You can just do whatever you want. Whatever kind of promotion you want to do on our behalf, feel free.
I like it. I like that you jump right to merch, considering we do not have a store. There's no store. I know you're looking for it right now, listener. You're like, where is their merch store? I want that little baby with headphones on my chest. I want a hat with that front and center. I want to let people know that I'm representing Retraction. I love that pod. I love what these guys do. I'm here for them, and I want everyone to know that I'm here for them too. So
you reach out to us on Twitter, and we will get that out to you.
Okay. All right, then. And with that, we start the show.
All right. So I had told you after our last episode that I was going to give guns a break. But I'm going to go back on that.
Okay.
It's really hard to stop talking about this.
Okay.
Apparently, Antoine, the volume of gun violence in this country isn't enough to raise awareness by itself.
No.
Outlets need to keep reporting on gun violence to dispel gun myths and force the realization that guns do more harm than good. I don't know if that's if we're all in agreement about that. I don't think we are. So we're just going to keep talking about this a little longer.
Right. Okay.
So what I want to do is continue to bring some life to these statistics, understand that these numbers are people, families, communities, and make it known how common this carnage has become. But I will meet you halfway, Antoine. So I will do a good news, bad news story around this. I'm going to start with the bad news first, though.
We have a good news story around guns in America. You're telling me we do. I mean, I'm going to hold you to that
for debate, but we'll
okay.
We'll go. Okay.
Okay.
So let me start. Here we go. In 2021, your favorite governor, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, signed 7 pieces of legislation that expanded gun rights in Texas. His justification at the time was citing stories of ranchers along the border who have to, quote, defend themselves against cartels, gangs, and other very dangerous people. The laws did the following. Anyone that can own a firearm can open carry that firearm. They shield Texans from federal overreach by contradicting federal law. They allow any entity to transport guns and ammo during declared disasters. They prohibit the government from doing business with anyone that discriminates against firearm businesses like the NRA. And that one really kind of threw me. So the government will not do business. They are prohibited from doing business with any other company, business, what have you, that discriminates against firearms.
How do you discriminate against firearms? What does that mean?
So I think maybe a few other ones may get to it, but if in some way you have restricted firearms, or maybe even go as far as to just critique organizations like the NRA, and maybe it's documented somewhere, maybe you've made public announcements about it, I don't know. That one was an interesting one. 3 more left. He removed holster requirements, so Texans can carry guns in whatever they want. I guess before you had to have it in a holster that was over your shoulder or around your belt.
Nothing like that gun backpack. I guess that's what they're trying to get to.
You just gun. Maybe he's trying to do the whole thing where it was like the umbrella that had like the little point that came out. Maybe you can hide it in a coffee cup or something, or
But are you allowed to open carry though? Like, do you have to conceal it?
I don't know anymore.
Okay.
Apparently, yeah, you maybe just walk around with it in your hand.
I was just wondering. I was like, can I just hold it in a plate? Can you
Maybe.
just walk around with a little teacup, like a like a little tea plate with your gun in it? You just have it in one hand as you prance around town. I just want to know what the extent of what you can do in Texas now with your guns.
You can do a lot.
Awesome.
Um,
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Hotels cannot prohibit travelers from storing their guns in hotel rooms. So if you're just, either you're a Texan or not, and you're going through towns, staying in hotels, it used to be that the hotels would make you check that gun. Now you can store it in your hotel room, and the hotels can't do anything about it. So that may be feeding into government can't do business if you don't want to do stuff like that. And then firearm suppressors made in Texas will not be subject to federal law. So there's a few in there that contradict federal law, and I really don't understand that, but I guess it's going to be more of a come and make us, which seems to be a pretty common phrase that you hear from gun people,
yeah.
like come and get them type thing, like come into Texas and make us do this.
Yeah, yeah. You as the federal government, pry these guns out of our cold, dead hands, because you'd be dead. If the government wanted to come in and actually take your guns, that's kind of the end of it, Texans.
Yeah, you're right. They will come and get your guns, just like they've done in Waco and in, I think there was some like Virginia thing back in, right after that. And there's not much that the states can do individually against the federal government.
Not at all. So it's complete fabrication among the political elite within the more red portion of the electorate to rile them up with this fanciful notion of protecting yourself from the federal government. But the irony of the whole thing is that Texas has probably a disproportionate amount of ex-military people living within its borders. I'm just saying, like, I feel like a lot of people who join the military come from southern states. They come from, I'm assuming, states like Texas. And I feel like those people know more than anyone else the extent of the military's breadth and power, considering that they've witnessed us decimate whole nations that had their own standing militaries, with their own parades, their own practices, day in, day out.
If it even went that far, I mean, I think the FBI could take care of it.
It could be just that. I'm just trying to point out that you have people who have done military service, who understand the strength of the military. I wonder how they feel when, the government is saying, let them come, or, let the Fed enact its power to remove us from being able to hold guns. I just wonder what those military people, how they feel.
Let us produce firearm suppressors that violate federal law. So what? The FBI comes in and raids your factories and shuts you down. What are you going to do?
That's basically the end of it.
Call in your state defense militia to fight the FBI? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd. I mean, and that's anti. And the thing is, the Reds are supposed to be the party of the state. I mean, that's such a weird thing to rile. Not only are you against progressives and trying to change the way that the country operates, you want a more conservative, back to supposed value time that doesn't really exist. And then on top of it, you're saying that if the state infringes on this right that you actually legally do not have, you're willing to go up against them with arms. I mean, granted, nothing you've said has reiterated that sentiment, but we know as Americans, like, this is a sentiment that we feel like we glean off of, we whiff off of. I mean, states like Texas.
Can you imagine a Republican president putting something that into law, or there is a law, and then Democratic governors just not just refused it, but like took arms up against the Fed? It just doesn't.
Well, that's, I mean, the marijuana legislation was the closest thing you have to that, and the worst thing that happened in the beginning was the Fed came in, raided state legal growers, and then left with all the contraband, and then the state helped them regrow. And eventually, they realized it was kind of a waste of time doing that, because no one's up there in arms fighting you, but
So there you have it.
You just make them again.
The Democrats thought that everyone should have the right to indulge in a substance, and the substance that doesn't really harm anyone, and the Republicans want to do the guns. Okay, so there you have it. That's what they did in 2021. He enacted those 7 laws. Fast forward,
and during COVID, he was really busy during
he took
global
advantage.
pandemic.
He took advantage.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too. Yeah.
He certainly wasn't doing anything with their power grid, that's for sure. So fast forward to 2023, and you have 2 recent acts of gun violence that have garnered national attention. First one, a Texas man on a date at a burger joint paid $40 to park, but soon learned that he was scammed and that parking was free. The man then left his date at the table to go back, and he fatally shot the man posing as an attendant. He then returned for dinner and told his date that, quote, everything was fine, and that he just scared the man. His date turned him in 2 days later after the police released photos of them both. Crazy, right? Crazy. And the second one, I think
actually, you know what the craziest thing about that story is? That date wasn't his wife. I'm trying to think of the balls to kill a man on like a blind date or like a first Tinder date. You know, like, this is a person who has zero allegiance to you. There's just there's no camaraderie.
Oh, this was his ego. This was his ego that he got conned.
That's crazy to do it.
Also, you paid
if he did it from his wife.
First of all, you paid $40 for parking for a burger joint.
Well, clearly someone got ripped off. But I'm just trying to say, I don't want you to leave this. If it's your wife, I feel like, different, there are the Bonnie and Clydes out there. There are the ride or die couples. Okay. My wife's not one of them. She would turn me in, but there are some out there where it's like, I know she's going to be quiet. We're crazy like that together.
I don't think she knew. I don't think the date knew that he came back and said like,
well, I'm just trying to say that, yeah, she didn't know, even if the wife didn't know. I'm just saying, but days later, the idea that your date would not turn you in. That's what I'm trying to say. The fact that he didn't realize that his date would turn him in 2 days later because it's some Grindr, Tinder kind of like,
Well, I mean, what kind of person shoots someone and then goes back to eat their dinner?
Well, an American. I just feel like there's more people out there.
Clearly, he wasn't thinking that far ahead. Like,
well, I'm trying to say that because of that's what the listeners know. This country is so crazy that it is more plausible for me to imagine a man who has a gun killing an attendant for overcharging them for parking. That I feel like that I would say there's more people in this country that would do that than there should be. How about that? There are more people likely to do something like that in this country in particular than anywhere else in the world. But of those people, I'm shocked that they would do something on a date with someone who is not like, they said a date, not a girlfriend, not a fiance, it's not a cousin. He wasn't on a date with his sister.
Which goes
parts
back?
Of our country that would be a thing.
Who goes back? I gotta say, like, even if if it was me, I'd just be like, I'd be mad. I don't think I'd go back and confront the guy. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99.9% sure I'd be like that's it. Like, screw that dude. But I'm certainly not gonna. I don't know who that guy is. Well, like, I'm not gonna go back and like try and get my money back from this dude who's just like out there conning people for whatever reason.
Who deserves to lose their life over a con? Because again, we've talked about this. This is street justice. There's no legal system that would agree with this. Not in this country. Other countries, sure, but in this country, there's no legal system that would support that. That would say, "Oh, he scammed you. We're going to put the death penalty on the table." That would be ludicrous. That would be insane. So why do people think that these are just that ends justify the means there?
Because his feelings were hurt. People are emotional. You're not rational or logical when you're really emotional. And this dude probably has thin skin, weak ego, and he just went nuts. And he had a lethal weapon in his possession. That's the whole point. There's so many mental health issues going around that go untreated, undiagnosed, unrecognized, and people are ashamed to even think that they may have an issue, even if it's fleeting, even if it's just, again, in the moment, your inability to cope with a situation that makes you feel uncomfortable. It could just be those types of things. But you're giving everyone the ability to kill people. Like it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense why you would arm a population. You would have your mental health ship so run so tightly. Like we would have to have such amazing support systems here to be able to trust everyone with that type of responsibility, and we don't. I mean, we don't even care. We don't even talk about mental health.
No, not at all. It's not even part of most health plans. You know, you're lucky if you get covered by seeing a therapist. And the thing is, even if you did get coverage, the odds that a person like that, someone who has put their faith in using guns are now an extension of their self, is not going to go and talk to a person on a couch, you know, one-on-one about their feelings. Their feelings are tied up in that weapon. Their feelings are almost non-existent because they think killing people is perfectly fine. That's the other thing that we don't talk about in this country. What is it about Americans that think killing is fine? Like, it's no big deal. People die. We kill people. I'm going to buy a gun because I may need to kill a man. You know, it's like, that's just a thing. It's a thing that I have to do here. I just wish we had a significant European audience to run that by them. The idea, just to talk to any person and say, what are the odds that you think you're going to have to kill someone in your lifetime? I want to know what their percentage is, just off the cuff. In fact, this might be a good Twitter poll. If you do not live in the United States, what percentage do you think what is your percentage in terms of odds that you may have to kill a man? Because in America, for some reason, men, especially men who grow up here, think it's 98%.
Or they think is 1% too many. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because the thing is like, even if you were to have that conversation,
anyway,
even if you were to have that conversation, you're like, okay, it was whatever percent. I can't imagine arguing. I mean, I can imagine arguing with some people maybe, but a normal person, a reasonable person would say that there's probably far more people that are afflicted by mental health concerns, mental health issues, than there is the likelihood that you will ever need to defend your life with a gun. Yet we give everyone a gun and we don't talk about mental health at all. We have no support, like you said, for mental health at all. It just doesn't make sense. If you're really concerned with the general well-being of the population, you know, you would say, okay, gun, you can protect yourself. These are the different ways you can protect yourself with different health plans and all that stuff.
Guns are in your health plan. It's your last options. And basically you have to see everyone else first. So it's like, have you seen your therapist? It's like, I saw my therapist. Did you see your doctor? It's like, yeah, I saw the doctor. Well, there was a nurse practitioner that was also assigned to your case. Did you see them too? Did you see the orthopedic? Because we know that you've got knee problems. We just want to make sure that you're able and not too afraid. You know, we don't want you to feel like you cannot run in a certain situation. Have you seen all these people? Basically, you run down the 152 people that you need to see, and at the bottom, it's like, okay, here's your gun. Your gun is the end, because the odds are you're either gonna kill someone else or kill yourself. I mean, that's usually the 50-50 that goes with owning a gun, unless you happen to be one of those people that owns a gun for their entire life and dies peacefully in their sleep. I mean, I don't know, but yeah,
that's the thing, is that
to run that down.
I'm sure that happens a lot too, where you're a law-abiding gun owner. Whether you get mad or not, you were smart enough to never put yourself in a situation to hold your gun while you're heated, and you make it through life without hurting yourself or anyone else, and you enjoy your weapon as well. I'm sure that happens a lot. I also know that a lot of people are dying.
I don't think it happens as well. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be very controversial. I don't think it happens as much as people want to romanticize that it happens. I want to put out there that I think there are far more cases of gun owners killing themselves sometimes there was a story, what was it, like 4 months ago? Guy's dog shot him in the head, put the rifle in the pickup truck. Dog was getting a little feisty while he was driving, ran over the rifle. That was the end of that guy. I'm just saying, there are a lot of stories. There are more stories like that than there are of, my house was being invaded. 4 guys came in through the basement. Luckily, I had my shotty on me, and I went to town. First of all, I never hear that story. I've actually never heard that.
No, I never hear. It's very, very rare, and I know that they probably exist. I think I've heard a few cited. Have I ever verified or validated? No, but that's not what I was talking about. Not in the. I wasn't comparing gun violence to the amount of times that guns are saving lives to confront a perpetrator. I was actually just saying, The amount of people who own guns, and it's very uneventful. Nothing ever happens with them, right?
Right.
They may take them to
Gotcha.
the range, they may go hunting, but nothing ever comes of it. No damage done, no perpetrators stopped, just nothing. So I'm
Yeah.
sure that happens a lot, but cool, good for you. A bunch of people are dying. And so the second example I wanted to pull up tonight, which was got a little more attention, was of a Texan that was firing off guns at 11 p.m. on his property. His next door neighbor went over to him to ask him if he could kindly stop because his baby was sleeping.
Okay.
And the gunman later went back to that guy's house, killed his wife, killed his son, and killed 3 other adults.
Wow.
Like, devastating. Like, absolutely devastating. Can you
I
imagine?
haven't heard about that.
No, I mean, the Google won't even let you finish the sentence. It'll come right up. This dude. So imagine, we've all been there. I mean, you were either the people having the loud party,
right,
when you were younger, maybe still now, but certainly you've been trying to get a good night's sleep, and there's been noise too loud late at night, and you're like, man, you guys got to stop. And with a kid, it's even worse, right? Because once that kid's up, it's done. So the guy's got this family, baby sleeping, infant sleeping. It's 11 p.m. This guy's outside firing weapons. Guy goes over, hey man, can you please stop? I got a kid just trying to sleep at home. I really don't want to wake him. He goes back to his house. The guy then goes over there later and murders his whole family. It's just crazy. Right? What is that? What is that? What are we protecting here? Gun violence is on the rise this year. We've seen the Nashville school shooting, a Kentucky bank, a California dance hall, 2 examples I just mentioned. U.S. mass killings in 2023 so far have taken 88 lives in 17 mass shootings in 111 days. And that's not everything. Those are the mass shootings. That's not all the day-to-day stuff that happens. But as I promised, it's not all doom and gloom. I'm going to pick us back up a little bit. While some states like Texas are...
Seriously? You think...
I'm going to try.
You think it's possible to drop...
It's not a counterbalance.
An entire family being murdered.
It's not a counterbalance.
A loose gunman. Oh, okay. And you're trying to say we could rise up. We could rise up.
There's a hope. It's a new hope.
Okay.
It's a new hope in the universe.
Okay. All right. I can't wait.
So like I said, you got some states like Texas passing laws to increase gun usage. However, there are other states making slow progress towards gun reform. I hate that it's not on the federal level, but I'll take what I can get at this point. So people with common sense are being heard more and more. And this is Colorado's governor signed 4 gun control bills within the last week or so, or a couple weeks. And they include raising the gun buying age from 18 to 21, establishing a 3-day waiting period between purchase of and receipt of a gun, strengthening red flag laws, which allow police to collect firearms from at-risk people without a crime being committed, and a rollback of firearm industry protections, exposing them to lawsuits from victims of gun violence. So all in all, I think some of those are pretty powerful combinations. Is it removing the guns from people? Not so much, but I think it is a really good step in a direction that at least Colorado is going to benefit from.
That's shocking that's Colorado.
I know.
That's crazy.
So,
but and that, well, I mean, it shouldn't be shocking because they've had so many of these shootings occur. Colorado has it's not disproportionate, but I think in terms of coverage, media coverage, I think it's disproportionately probably covered. Where because they had a nightclub, right? Colorado as well.
I mean, I don't know.
Columbine
hard to track. They had wouldn't they have was it the Batman in a movie theater?
Yeah, that's why I think that's Colorado. Yeah.
I think that was there. I don't know. I don't. I mean,
it's a big state, But I'm just saying, the funny thing is, Colorado, because Columbine, they were Colorado, weren't they? That's Columbine is. I'm pretty sure it's Colorado. I'm not going to continue if it isn't. This whole point is contingent on Columbine happening in Colorado. Okay, sweetness. So James giving me the thumbs up. So I'm just saying they have the first one. They have the first one that really put this issue it laid it bare. It said things weren't even as heightened as they were today, but at that time, people were saying, do we need guns in America? If kids could go in and it was like the first real mass
Like
school
25
shooting.
years ago or something.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that's how long the fervor of gun, and in fact, the NRA has only picked up being stronger since then because of the challenges. I mean, it felt like at that time there was a real shift where this country might have done away with 2A. I don't know if you remember that, Jamie, but the shock across the nation, people were having
terrifying.
Yeah,
it was terrifying.
Yeah, so I was just saying for the first time that it was like a serious conversation where even politicians bought and paid for not getting enough money from the NRA to basically ignore their constituents who basically it would have been political suicide to come out in some way, shape, or form in defending Columbine at that time. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, the shock, the like you said, the fear. So yeah, for the first time, politicians were it felt like they might almost do something incredibly drastic about guns. I was in high school at the time. I don't remember, kind of how it all ended or why nothing ever really got
we
done.
had more, and they figured out a strategy to get around it. Like they figured out, we don't do anything. People kind of forget. We move on to the next news cycle, and we still get our jobs. We still get to keep our jobs.
I really don't think anyone was. I don't think anyone was thinking that during Columbine. I think it was so. No, I don't think that. I think
that after Columbine, I don't know how much time passed before people stopped asking for a change.
Yeah, I feel like it may have been 2 years, but I feel like it probably was a big fight because I remember there were all these marches and gun like it was. I remember maybe that's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe it was more traumatic when you were in high school. Maybe you
felt like real change was going to happen.
Yeah, maybe the adults.
25 years later, and these 4 gun control bills are like a big wow factor in that state. So clearly, it didn't move the needle too much.
I feel like I needed a Dan Carlin back then, just to be like, look, kid, it's not. I've been around a long time.
Need an old timer.
It's gonna take more than this. It's like, but really, we've never seen anything like it. He's like, I'm telling you, kid, it's gonna take much more than this. Men could raid the Capitol, threaten the lives of every politician in the building with weapons, with guns,
with
and still those politicians will vote to keep them.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right.
Anyway,
moving on to next topic.
Coming at you.
All right.
What's up?
So here's something to think about. When you're driving down a highway and you see a paper bag on the side of the road, know that organisms in the soil will eat that bag. And in a few weeks, it will be completely broken down.
Compost.
Yeah, right. So plastic, on the other hand, will take far longer to break down. The plastic will become smaller and smaller until you can't see it anymore with the naked eye, and they become microplastics and nanoplastics, which we've talked about before. And I did read a couple articles on this, which is why I'm bringing it up because, you'll see. So as it breaks down into those smaller pieces, it stays in each stage of size much longer than a paper bag. And with each prolonged stage, the plastic is given ample opportunity to travel. It moves around the environment due to factors like rain and erosion, but even gets picked up by local animals, which is one way it's introduced into our food chain. But there are other ways microplastics are introduced to humans, and that's through food packaging and plastic drinking bottles. It's estimated that 90,000 plastic particles can enter a single human, drinking bottled water each year. So if you drink a lot of bottled water, 90,000 plastic particles in that year. In fact, the average person is ingesting 5 grams of plastic per week, which is equal to eating a credit card. You pull out your credit card, eat it. And that's how much plastic you're getting from your plastic bottles, from
chip
eating things out of.
Is it because of the chip? Like the chip, you get a couple of metal, so that would slightly decrease the amount of the card, really.
If that makes you know what, leave the last Dorito in the bag, and you should.
That's called saving.
Yeah. So ingesting plastics isn't going to immediately make you sick like a virus, but there's potential concern for pathogens living on plastic, which we covered before. However, there's always been a limit to where plastic could go in your body. So microplastics have been found in human intestines, blood, lungs, and even placentas, which should be concerning. But now the game has changed with a breakthrough animal study that discovered microplastics enter the brain just 2 hours after ingestion. Okay, so why is this important?
I will never eat. I will never eat a credit card again. That's first. Second,
Okay. I think that's a good place to start.
I think I'm a guy who likes a bottle of water, and I think that's coming to an end. This is what science is. It's very powerful, and it's good to have a friend that is willing to bring these things to your attention, because I definitely would have I would have probably died. So I don't smoke, but I would have died of plastic bottle ingestion at some point in my life.
We're all already in trouble. I mean,
Okay.
well, you've been drinking it for. I mean, when do
But I
plastic
can
bottles?
stop now. I can stop.
That's you could, you could, you could.
I can control it. I don't have a problem. I don't need a plastic bottle in my hand. All right. Go on.
I don't know how it works with your brain expelling plastic. I don't know what the thresholds are. This is a new study, and hopefully they do come out with some of that guidance as to say, is there anything that can mitigate the damage already done, or are you kind of just live with it? And how much damage is too much damage? Those things we don't know yet. But what is important about knowing this now, because plastic in your lungs and your blood and all that stuff, again, wasn't known to cause any immediate harm to you. But now that it's in your brain, researchers believe that microplastics increase the risk of an array of serious issues like inflammation, neurological disorders, or even neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, right? Plus, now that plastics are known to cross the blood-brain barrier, it is concerning whether or not a pathogen could hitch a ride. Because larger particles don't make it through the blood-brain barrier, indicating size may play a role, but the researchers made another discovery. The team identified a passive transport mechanism into the brain that helps cholesterol molecules on the membrane surface. And so it's actually really cool that they've come across this. But what it also means is that we've almost we're exploiting ourselves. We've hacked ourselves. We've come up with a way to introduce potentially dangerous particles that are so small that they trick our body into letting them into our brains, because the body allows particles that small to go into our brains because it needs that. So we're manipulating our bodies in a horrible way, and we didn't even know we were doing it. And we've been doing it for decades. How long have we had?
Hacking is a very appropriate way to put that out there. That's exactly how that works. Yeah. Wow, malware to the brain. There
you go.
Thank you, Pepsi.
But this is actually
Coke. I don't want to be partisan. I don't want people to say, "Oh, he's a Coke drinker, therefore he's fine with the particles in the brain." I'm not. Thank you, Pepsi Coke. I can't wait to hear how you're on the hook for this.
We're going to move back to glass bottles now.
No! Oh, sorry. I thought you were about to take those away. I was like, we're glass is next.
No. Okay. It's the plastic. It's the plastic. So the discovery of knowing that the cholesterol, and that's how it all works, is actually really cool. And it's going to give scientists a lot to study now to understand this new transport model. But let's get away from consuming food and drink from plastic packaging and plastic litter slowly degrading, because there's another way that we are exposed to microplastics. Drink and food packaging itself is made of rice-sized plastic pellets, if you weren't aware. And millions of these pellets are transported by freight trains. And during that journey, small piles of these pellets litter the tracks. The pellets fall out of the freight cars and they just fall onto the tracks. And when it rains, they find their way into our waterways, like creeks, rivers, lakes, oceans. And this is yet another way that microplastics are introduced into our food chain. And the impact on our waterways is measurable. In the Midwest, the Midwest is currently in the midst of a hydrofracking boom to mine oil and gas. And half of the fracking wells in Pennsylvania produce ethane. Ethane is used to make the most common type of plastic. Factories that make and transport this plastic are in the Lake Erie area. Lake Erie area. That was tough to say. Lake Erie has a concentration of microplastics that rivals the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is a floating landfill that's twice the size of Texas.
Read that again for deafening effect.
Okay. Lake Erie has a concentration of microplastic that rivals the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is a floating landfill that's twice the size of Texas. And just so you understand a little more about that one point, the majority of plastic in Lake Erie is about the width of a human hair. So imagine how much has to fall out and how often it has to fall out in order to have twice the size of Texas worth of plastic in Lake Erie.
So disgusting.
And how much of that's all coming from the runoff from the tracks. Like, how much didn't make it? You know what I mean? It's just the rain and stuff that's bringing it. Like, how much else is in our environment right now that isn't just in Lake Erie? And so, to speak plainly, to reiterate all of that, this connects hydrofracking to the plastics industry. The plastics industry is polluting our environment and our shelves. You eat plastic every week, whether you know it or not, and that plastic gets in your brain and makes you sick. That's where we are today.
Do you think there's other, do you think that this could start to maybe account for some of the a lot of the foolishness that we're able to endure now, like that occurs? Like, I'm just putting it out there. I'm trying to think of what it's like to be a guy like Donald Trump. Okay, and this is going to make sense in a second. I'm a big shot. I make a lot of money in the 80s. I'm living in New York. New York has some of the most fantastic regular pipe water, I would say, in the world. It's immaculate. It tastes different. Everyone always comments on it. I think it's supposed to be really good.
Good marketing.
But I'm a rich guy. I'm Donald Trump. I get chauffeured everywhere. I wear big coats. I get myself, by paying my way, to have a spot in Home Alone 2. You know, these are things that I'm going to do because I have a big ego. I know that I'm probably not going to drink the New York City public water. I'm going to be one of the earliest people to start drinking purified bottled water.
It's a fine rationale.
I'm not making rationales. I'm just painting a story. And I've been drinking this fine purified bottled water for the better part of 40 years. And I'm one of the first people. I'm just saying, is it possible that there are some people who have been disproportionately drinking and inhaling plastic longer than the rest of us that we could point to start to say, what else might be happening within the population? I mean, I get the dementia parts and the Alzheimer's. I just say I'm just trying to.
Well, it's interesting because
what else might be going on?
We have a lot of these diseases happening, and a lot of times when people say, like, well, why didn't we have it back in the day? The argument will be that we did. We did have it. We just didn't have the tools to identify it, to diagnose it. We thought that they were the crazy person, or that they were, moody or something, or whatever it may be.
And or they saw a vision of God. Yeah.
Right. There you go. Right. And it could be true, but then this could also be part of that equation as well, where we have generations of people born into consuming plastic and that have lived out an entire life, probably damaged their genome in some way, and then reproduced. And they repeated the cycle. And I don't know how many times you can do that before you do have some issues. So, yeah, Are
you trying to liken the plastic epidemic to some sort of I lost my train of thought.
That's fine. I mean, what this could turn out to be, may have heard the theories of Rome and its lead. This may be our lead. This plastic may be our lead.
Oh, okay. So like the lead, so like the big, big issues with lead. Then when we started cleaning up lead and what have you.
Well, in Rome, right? They said that it was.
Oh, you went all the way back to
elite.
Rome. What happened? I don't know a story about Rome and lead.
I said one of the theories that have been thrown out there that their aqueducts or their certain or not or pottery was lined with lead, but it was something that the ruling class would have and not everyone else, and they wind up going crazy and sterile because of it after so much use, and that contributed to the downfall.
Oh, it's like that. Does that then explain sort of?
I have no idea if that's.
I'm just saying
true.
it's interesting because it feels like the Roman leadership becomes more and more not irate, but more like they one up each other in terms of the length of their insanity. I attributed it to losing grip of the nation that you're supposed to be, kind of running. That kind of pressure, gets to people in different ways. But it'd be interesting to say if like the aristocracy, if wealthy people have been procreating with this lead in their veins, if that then was creating a more likelihood of children that would have run the empire into the ground. Also, this is a very cool thing for a science fiction novel. I was just saying, I'm thinking in the Asimov vein. I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. An empire that destroys itself through something innocuous, like that they bathe more often than the regular populace.
Like I said, I don't know if it's true. I've heard it before, but regardless, it's something similar where we have been unknowingly poisoning ourselves. And God, we're recycling the plastic, so we keep using it over and over, right? I mean, it's like this whole everything should be plastic, and it's interesting. So that's that.
It's not interesting. This is horrifying.
It is. I don't know. I don't know how else to take it. I read this, so this is like the compilation of like 6 articles. It'll be in our description. You can check out the sources, but I took some time with this, and I was like, wow. Like I'm writing it, I'm reading it, and I'm like, I consume plastic. I've been consuming plastic.
Yeah, but some of us have been consuming plastic in greater volumes than others. Most notably, people who thought they were too good to drink regular water, which may or may not be.
How smart do you feel now? How smart do you feel now?
I just, what's even worse is like the. I wonder if the more expensive bottles of water contain less microplastics than the cheapest bottled water.
I don't know.
Because cheap bottled water it's more squishy. It doesn't last. It doesn't hold up as strong. So I wonder if it releases more. Wow, this is absolutely.
Yeah, I want to know. I want to know more about this. I want to know. Is it the type of thing where your body will immediately start to heal itself once you stop intaking?
But it's impossible to stop intaking. So that's the thing. It's almost like it's over because the odds that we would clean
maybe
up
there's like a saturation threshold, like your body can expel as long as you keep it under a certain amount.
Oh, well, this is a good question then. In order for that to occur, I guess you're wondering because none of the articles said anything about how the body gets rid of this microplastic or how long it takes. They don't even know.
Sure it does.
That's what I'm saying. So there isn't a dilution period because it's an accumulation.
Oh, I don't know. No, that's what I'm saying. I want to know. I want them like this is new research. This is new research.
Yeah, hopefully our body is expelling it in a way. It's just maybe it's so slow that we cannot, given how much plastic we've absorbed.
Yeah. Hopefully it is. Hopefully that was.
I'm trying to be optimistic here because you're hopefully that was really dark.
Hopefully that's part of our evolution. Hopefully over the
tolerance for plastic because a baby was finally born that was just a bottle. It was just literally just came out. Shot out, and it was in the shape of a Sprite bottle, and it even had
it's got a label on it.
Yeah, I was just going there. Yes, its head is a little screw top, and it's got a big old lemon lime across its belly.
I like it. Birthmark looks like a Pepsi logo.
It is, yeah. Coca-Cola Ltd.
It's interesting. I don't want to get too panicked. But The study was done on mice. So they will, I assume, continue figuring out how poisoned we are and what to do about it. But I just fear that, even when this comes out, if it ever comes out, it's going to be on the consumer to pay a premium to get food and water that doesn't contain plastic in it. Like, what's going to happen? I mean, that's a sad outcome, but yeah.
You've left me speechless. I have nothing. I literally cannot think of anything to say to this. You told us you were going to lift us out of a dark period, and then you like kind of left us flat-ish. I mean, it was a lift, but it wasn't an angel has grabbed you up into the clouds of heaven kind of thing, like, which is what I was hoping for, because right now it feels like we're in the bowels of hell. And I just feel like you grabbed us into a limbo, and then here you just knocked the wind out of it. It's like you helped us up only to sucker punch us, or like to really, really give us one in the gut. I just feel like that's where we are.
And that's where it's going to stay until next time.
All right. Well, Jamie, where can they find us?
Folks, we have new content every week. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Drink up, everybody.
And with that, Retraction. Oh.